All right, folks, we are live. Welcome to the Giant Insider Podcast, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook on the Believe Network. My name's Jerry Foley. I'm the senior editor of the Giant Insider newspaper, and with me, as always, is the beat writer, the heart of Giants Nation, co-host of the ManjaCast with the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa. Nobody beats the biz, Chris Bizignano. All right, Chris, so I was thinking about this today. You've been covering this team since 2018, right? Was that your first year covering in the locker room?
Yeah.
All right. So not pound for pound, but I guess in the short span, I don't know if anyone's experienced more coaches than you have, right? So you've had Shermer, Judge, Dable, and now Mike Kafka, right? So Mike Kafka counts. So I was just thinking that, like, I wonder if there's another beat writer who's had as many coaches in, 8 years, right? 8 years. This might be a record. So I was thinking about that today. Anyway. We have Mike Kafka as the interim head coach, makes a few key decisions that I think Giant fans like. But I guess we'll start with that, Chris. You were there for the presser. What were your impressions of Mike Kafka, the head coach, versus Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator? Was there anything different thus far?
Yeah, I think he's a little different. He's a little more peppy. Usually when he comes out, when he's, on Thursdays, he just gives the standard answers and that's it. But a little different today. You could tell he's excited. You could tell he gave a little more. He elaborated a little bit more on answers. For instance, I asked him about Bowen and about confidence level, and if that was Dable, he'd be like, "Yeah, I have total confidence," and that would be it, And he went into it, talk about making some tweaks, getting together, maybe changing some things up, and all that stuff. So he definitely elaborate on some answers the way he usually does it on Thursdays. You can see the excitement. I think he's going to make some change. Look, you ready? Elevating the tight ends coach. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
I know, because I was surprised it wasn't Tierney as well.
The tight ends coach.
I got it. Go ahead. Keep going.
I'm drawing a blank. Please help me.
Pathetic. I'm sorry. I got to be there for you, buddy.
Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm drawing a total blank on the tight ends coach who's not a coordinator. So that was a little bit of a surprise. I thought maybe it'd be Shea Tierney if he did that.
Tim Kelly.
I knew it was a Tim. My God, I'm sorry, everybody.
I knew it was Kelly. I didn't know I forgot the first name.
I totally drew a blank. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Kenneth. Well, not Chip Kelly, but Tim Kelly.
Chip Kelly, right?
Yeah, so Tim Kelly, the tight ends coach, he elevates the OC.
Yep.
Not Shea Tierney, the quarterback coach. So I thought maybe Tierney would have that quarterback coach / OC thing going on, but he doesn't. I could just tell the way Kafka was talking. They kind of changed the practice schedule around a little bit. I think he's going to tinker with some stuff. I think he's going to make some changes. Some things he wants to change and tweak and all that stuff from what Dable did. And it'll be interesting. Look, Kafka has interviewed with a lot of teams. He's done very well, but he's never gone up in front of the media after games,
right?
4 times a week. So this will be new to him. We'll see how he does. He handled it very well today. Now, after a tough loss, and you're asking, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do this? That could be different. But he's a very intelligent guy, Mike. Very personable guy. Like him a lot. I thought he was good. Thought he was great today. Now the Giants come out, Jerry, and they give up 10 points in the fourth quarter and lose to the Packers Sunday, or 14 points. They blow a lead. Can I see a change at defensive coordinator after the Packers game next week? Yeah, I could.
Yeah, I think this is I think it's week to week with the defensive coordinator, dude.
Right. So, I mean, I know Bowman said right now that'll be it for coaches change, but I think that's subject to change too.
Or Kafka said, you mean? Yeah.
I'm sorry, what did I say, Bowman?
Kafka
said, what Kafka said today is, though, right now it doesn't look like any coaching change, but I do believe that could change.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting. A few things that will be interesting will be personnel decisions on game day, right? Maybe some guys who aren't involved in the offense, might be involved.
Rhymes with Myatt.
Besides him,
yeah,
you got, it'd be interesting if he keeps 4 tight ends active on game days.
Mm.
And if he does, if he gets those guys involved, like a Thomas Findoni. Okay?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting, those little tweaks like that. Now, Mike was the coordinator. It's not like Mike wasn't the coordinator. He was the coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
But Dable obviously was the big man in game planning and stuff like that. And now it's all Mike show. Him and Tim Kelly will put a game plan together. And maybe, we don't know. We're not there, but maybe a couple of guys at Dable really didn't want to get involved or all that stuff. Well, maybe Mike wants to get involved now, Maybe Mike, doesn't want to Ray McCloud, getting 50 snaps. So, I thought it was a mistake today. And people were destroying Shane over this. And I tend to agree where little Jordan Humphrey, who was not active the last few games, well, Sean Payton swoops in today.
Yeah.
After it looks like Marvin Mims is going to be out a few weeks, and he swoops in today and signs little Jordan Humphrey to his 53. So the Giants,
I was going to say, one guy that can't get involved is little Jordan. Yep.
So, and Ray McCloud's been on his elevated the last few weeks. A guy he comes over from Atlanta, who's not receiver deep. They let him walk. He had a little thing with Atlanta. He disappeared. He quit, came back, whatever the hell was going on down there. And I just thought little Jordan Humphrey added more. But the Giants didn't agree. So we'll see what Kafka does, making tweaks here and there. And you're going to see that as the weeks go on. Mike is auditioning too. Mike wants to stay here. Mike wants to be a head coach. And he knows how big this is for him. So
can we talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it, man, because Mike is auditioning, and if Mike does well,
mm-hmm.
and if this team is functional and all that stuff, Mike has a shot at being his head coach. So go ahead, Jerry.
So first off, Bartlett, thanks, man. Appreciate it. It'd be amazing if Kafka brought back a wink as an FU to Dave's. I don't think that would happen, but stranger things have happened. Bartlett, thank you very much for the contribution.
Thank you, Bartlett. Yes.
So our boy Jay Faries makes a comment here, and I tend to agree with him. Says, I bet if Kafka wins 4 games, they keep him. Continuity with Dart and it's much cheaper. I don't know about cheaper. I'm even going to go there. But I believe in that continuity with Dart is one thing. But I don't know if there's a win total for it, Chris. I tend to feel like he's right. I tend to think 4 or 5 wins. If they rattle off 5, he's the coach. I think if they go 4-3 down the stretch, the odds of him being named head coach, I would think, are much greater than they were today, right? And doesn't it validate Joe Shane more if he wins? Like if he goes say they go 0-7.
Yeah.
Then it's shoot, we got to look for a new coach, and man, the roster is this bad, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it, you know what I mean? It's almost like I don't know if it goes hand in hand, but I think it's close to going hand in hand. And again, I know we think that Shane's staying, but if they go 1-6, that's it's just as bad of a look for Shane as it is for Kafka for this roster, because now it's 2 coaches who can't win with this roster.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you this too. There's nothing written in stone that Joe Shane's staying. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
I mean, I know Mara and Tish came out and says we want Joe to lead this coach search, but there's nothing. Come January, and like you said, and this team is just 3-14. And a lot of questionable decisions. Don't think that Joe Shane is a definite coming back. I'm telling you right now. I mean, there's a good chance Joe comes back, but it could change in January. Don't think, his job is not 100% safe. I can tell you that. It's not 100% safe. It's not 100% safe. As far as, look, I don't think this is, Jerry, is even necessarily a number as far as Kafka, like, oh, well, he's got to win 5 games. You mean total 5 games in China. In other words, 3 more games, right?
No, I meant 4-3 down the stretch type of thing.
Yeah, which is going to be tough with this schedule, right? But to your point, like, I don't think it's a number to it. It's like, hey, give me a win. Let's see what this looks like. Let's see who's progressing. Let's see if it's a functional unit. Let's see the personnel. I mean, I expect Mike to make a few personnel changes, right? And let's see what they look like, Jerry. Like say they hold on to a couple of wins. They upset a couple of teams. They go up to Foxborough, they win a game and all that stuff. And maybe Mike wants a philosophical difference with Shane Bowen in fourth quarter, where Mike is on the headset going, Shane, I don't give an F if we lose this game, but you're sending 6 guys in every play. I want a max package blitz on every play. Things like that. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Things like that. And Mike shows that, the players respond. They really like it. The players really like Kafka. They respect him and all that stuff. And he puts in positions to win, and the players respond.
Yeah.
And then Mike goes and sits down with, John and Tish at the end of the year, interviews. Well, you know what? We saw you do this. We saw you do this. We liked you did this. We like this. We only won 4 games this year, but 2 of them were with you in the last 7. And we like the way they responded, and he's going to have a good chance to win. You know what I mean, Jerry? That's, you know what I mean? If it's the same old, Jerry, if it's the same old, hey, Giants, they're winning at halftime. They blow it in the second half. The offense stalls it here. All that stuff, then obviously, Mike Kafka probably won't get the job. So it's a big 7 games for Mike. Now, mind you, Jerry, come January, and say a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers say, you know what?
Yeah.
Mike had his run here. We need to change it up, and he becomes available. Then that'll be a no-brainer. He'll be a Giant coach. I can tell you that right now. He'll be the Giant coach.
Oh, I would love that. Who wouldn't love that? You should love that.
He'll be the Giant coach, So,
God.
like, other than that, because a lot of guys are going to want this job. I'm telling you, a lot of guys, and that includes the guys that have been around, like the Mike McCarthy's and stuff like that, and then the New Jacks, the Jesse Minter's, the Mike Shula's, and they're going to want this job. If they want to be head coaches because of Jackson Dart.
Yeah,
because this is a very good organization, okay, that treats their employees well, and Jackson Dart. So,
and high draft capital at least too. I would think that's another thing.
And you're going to have a top 5 pick. You don't have to worry about drafting that quarterback.
Can we put one person to bed of the coaching candidates that people keep asking about? I'll do it for you.
Oh, if it's Belichick, please.
Guys, that ship has sailed. We've said it before.
Is that who you're going to go with? Is that who you're going to go with?
Let's put that to bed. There is no way that ship sailed after 2020. First off, the Giants are not the organization that has that circus that he has down there going on. They're just not. But also, you have to realize he texted Flores, that whole issue. Like, that's not happening, guys. Like, that's not forgotten. That whole thing with Brian Flores. Oh, congratulations. Oh no, I'm wrong guy. Sorry, dude. Bill Belichick. I don't have the inside scoop, right? I'm not in the locker room. I'm telling you right now, it's not Belichick. So we have to please. That's the only guy no one's allowed. You can talk about anyone else. You're not allowed to talk about Bill Belichick going forward. I'm not going to acknowledge it. So,
yeah, you could. Yeah, it's pretty safe to say I don't expect Belichick. There's a lot of water under the bridge there.
Different type of circus, Chuck. Different type.
Belichick Belichick was not even at the 100-year anniversary when they had that last year. So enough said.
Good point. Right? That's a good
read
point.
Between the lines, folks.
I didn't know that. Didn't know that.
Yeah. So read between the lines. A lot of stuff going on there.
Bartlett again. Fingers crossed. Rodgers gets Tomlin the punt out of Pittsburgh. Yeah. Right. I mean, so is Pittsburgh that stupid, or is it just kind of like run its course?
I don't think it's ever going to happen. But the fans have been they've been on them. The fans have been upset because of the losses every year. Because of the playoff losses. They just, but Mike Tomlin's, give Mike Tomlin a quarterback, see how those playoff losses become wins, so he's one of the best coaches to ever do it. So if the Steelers, but look, Jerry, it happens. Look, it happened with Belichick, who's probably the greatest. Yeah. So you never know, dude. If they don't make the playoffs, they're 5-4 right now.
Yeah.
The Ravens are making a run. The Steelers might not make the Steelers could fall out of this. Okay.
Right.
There's 8 games left. They got to play the Ravens 2 more times.
Right.
So if they don't make the playoffs with an Aaron Rodgers, the fans are like, what do we do? We got to make a change. You don't know. Even though he's a great coach, you don't know.
Yeah.
They might want a different voice in that place or whatever was going on in Pittsburgh. The fans have been on him. The fans were looking for change for the last 3 years with Tomlin.
Chris, our guest is backstage. We want to let him in.
Yes. So we have a special guest, Paul Schwartz from the New York Post, covered the Giants since '94. And he's in backstage, I believe. Jerry, let's get him in here. We'll talk a little Dable and Kafka.
Folks, the Schwartz is now with us. There we go, Paul. What's up, buddy? Can he hear us? Can he hear us? Same as last time. Same issue as over the summer.
Do you hear me, guys? I don't hear you. I don't hear you guys, though.
Well, it's the earbuds. Well,
What does he have to do again?
I don't know. It's something with his. It's probably his earbuds. We can hear him. He's probably got to change the audio to his earbuds. He's probably got it on something else.
All right, Paul.
That's why I like the plugs.
Change audio. Change audio. What?
Change audio to his earbuds if that's the what he's hearing.
Okay, so I would try to get this straightened out with Paul.
Deja vu all over again. That's happened in the summer with Paul. Good stuff. All right. While we wait for Mr. Schwartz, look, if Tomlin breaks free of that, my God, is he there?
Let me. No? Wait, is that? Do I hear something now?
Hello.
Paul, you got us?
Yes, I hear you guys.
Oh,
yes,
beautiful. Okay. Well, we were just about to badmouth you. Thank God. Thank God you said you heard us.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm
Paul
doing
Schwartz
well.
of the New York Post, brother.
Yes,
Paul, thank you for jumping on with us again, and a lot of stuff going on, buddy. From Monday on.
What's going on? I've been out of the loop for about a week. Anything?
Yeah, there's been a few changes, tight end coaches, and all that stuff. So, Paul, let's get into it. First off, were you surprised at all? The news that came down Monday that they wanted to move on.
You know what? When it hits, no, I was not surprised, but I certainly wasn't shocked. When it hits, it's always like, wow, yeah, because why this week versus last week versus the week before? But I think after this game in Chicago, which looked so much like these other games, and I don't know about you guys, but as I watched that game and they had the lead, Caleb Williams doesn't look any good. You know what I mean? It's not, they're in control of the game. And you think to yourself, well, how can they screw this up? And once they screw it up, it's like, it's enough. You can't lose every game.
Right.
This is not, they're not losing 34-7 every game. Every game they're in the game and then they find a way to lose it. So, I at that point, I thought to myself, is there any way that ownership will look at this and say, you know what, we still think that Dable can come back next year? Once they said no, there was no reason to prolong this any longer. They're playing in the Packers this week. There's going to be what's your guess? 30,000 Packer fans there?
Yeah, it's 50%.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so it's not this put you out of your misery thing, but it's almost like there's no anybody can go in there and lose these games. So they might as well try something new now.
Paul, what do you think was some of the things that maybe Dable could have done better? When maybe he, you look at it and say, you know what, if Daves would have did this, did that, maybe he'd still be here. What do you think some of the mistakes he might have made the last few years?
It's a good question. You know what I mean? It's too simple to say, well, he should have won more games. Yeah, you're asking me, how could he have won more games? We know he would have stayed if he won more games.
Yes.
Look, it's an organizational decision. I go back to signing Daniel Jones instead of giving him letting him play on the franchise tag. You know what I mean? And so being saddled with a quarterback who he clearly was not aligned with. They just weren't in simpatico personality wise. That's one thing. But other than personnel, right? Okay, let's move the personnel to the side. As a head coach, well, I question his hire of Shane Bowen right now because I think this defense. Look, here's the thing: people say, well, why did Joe Shane stay? He should go too. If you guys would want to go through every pick with me and every trade and every move and to come to the conclusion that Joe Shane should have gone also, I would have probably said, I don't agree with you, but you made a compelling case. There is a case to be made that this is not good enough, draft-wise and things like that. But I'd like to know what you guys think. I think this defensive personnel is better than the way they are playing, okay? I thought top 10 that started the season. It's not that, but I didn't think bottom 5. Okay. So even with the injuries, so I look at the choice he made at defensive coordinator and I say, I don't think Shane Bowen is getting the best out of this defense. That's number one. Okay. I don't think he's getting the best out of Abdul Carter. He's not getting the best out of Dexter Lawrence. I don't think that's the defensive coordinator. I think that's Dexter Lawrence. Okay. So that's one thing. The defense has been very poor. Offensively, he did a great job with Jackson Dart this year. There's no question about it. He is a very fiery guy on the sidelines. We know that. And it was interesting that today, we can talk about this later, that a lot of the guys mentioned how calm Mike Kafka is. He's calming presence. And I do think Brian Daboll, look, we love that fiery stuff in 2022, pumping fists, great, leaving the field and going like this. That's fine. London, remember they won that first game in London. He goes off the field. He's pumping his fist. But I think a calmer presence on the sideline would have been helpful. He looked a bit out of control at times, and the team at times played out of control. Is there a yin yang with that? There could be.
Jerry?
Yeah, Paul, with Kafka taking over, I was saying before, I just want to get your thoughts on this, not to repeat it for everybody, but doesn't it kind of go hand in hand with Shane going forward? And I say that because if he's successful, then it kind of proves that the roster is not the problem, right? And by successful, I mean in games and not blowing leads with 10-point leads with 2 minutes to go and things like that. So if Kafka if they go 1-6 and just get their doors blown off, isn't that like an indictment on Shane, and then they just blow it all up at the end of the year?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, if they go 1-6, it's not good for Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka.
No, I know that. Right.
Yeah. I mean, he has to look. He's not going to win 6 games. He's not going to win 5 games. Look at the schedule. Look at the schedule. I mean, who are they going to beat? But I think they can beat some teams. But they're going to be underdogs in every game here. Maybe not the Raiders in Vegas.
The Raiders, maybe not.
I mean, at the start of the year, I didn't know Monday night against the Patriots was going to look like Mission Impossible.
Right.
Now it looks like one of the hardest games on their schedule. So I think this is an audition for Kafka, but it's an uphill battle. It's unquestionably an uphill battle. He can't change a lot of things. He's going into the first game with Jameis Winston, not Jackson Dart. You know what I mean? The version of Jackson Dart he's going to get is coming off a concussion. That's not great. That's not great. So, it's just not, it's just not. It's not a little tweak of a hamstring. It's a concussion.
Yeah.
And, he's not being, rushed through this, I think it was a real concussion. I think he's got symptoms here. That's what I think.
Yeah, he's
I don't know. Yeah.
No, he's banged up, Paul.
Yeah. So that's not good. He may not play for 2 weeks. So that's not good possible for Kafka either. And then when Dart comes back, what version are we going to see of that? But as far as the roster, look, clearly the roster is not good enough, but the roster without Malik Neighbors and the roster without Cam Scatterbo, now without Dart, it's got some issues. So I don't think that this is like, look, we saw the statement from the owners. What was the statement? That we think Joe Shane built a roster of good young talent or whatever it was, something like that. And he's staying on for the coaching evaluation. Now, I know they didn't say Joe Shane is absolutely coming back in 2026 and we're going to give him a contract extension. They did not say that. There will be a review at the end of this year. But to me, ownership going out of their way to saying that he has assembled a good roster of young talent is a plus for Joe Shane. And why the hell is he going to be talking to any candidates? I mean, can you imagine Clint Kubiak or Mike McCarthy or Lou Anarumo coming in and talking to Joe Shane? What's the first question they're going to ask? Joe, what are you coming back next year?
Well, that's the thing. These coaches are going to get.
I don't know.
They're going to get 4-year deals, right? They're going to average 4 year. If you sign someone, it's going to be 4 or 5 year contract, most likely, right?
A coach, absolutely.
So, all right. So your GM's done in the next year. So you're signing him then, right?
Yeah.
You can't do what happened with the Jets.
Well, look, if Joe Shane comes back, they will give, which I believe he will, they will give him an extension. I don't think it will be a 5-year extension that they give the coach. And you can say, well, now they're not on the same plan. He signed for next year. Maybe they add 2 years to it, and you go from there. He said, and fans are gonna have they're gonna have a heart attack here when you say you're giving Joe Shane an extension. They're probably going to give. You can't have him go into a lame duck year. And what head coach is going to say? Okay, so what's going on here? The GM, he's going into his lame duck year. So am I tied to him? Am I not tied to him? Maybe it'll be someone who Joe Shane has a connection with. I don't know his whole tree here. He doesn't have a connection with a lot of these guys, but He's got a list. George Young always said you have to have a list. The day you hire a coach, you have to have a list for the next head coach, and Joe Shane knows that.
Paul, you're dialed into the organization, and I said this last week, and the bottom line is that inside the building, they don't feel this is a 2-8 team, Paul. They feel this roster is better than 2-8, and that was another reason with Dable. And you exactly what you said, what they said in the statement about we feel Joe has brought in a good nucleus of players. That was just a little sign. I tried to tell everybody that, hey, they don't think this is a 2-8 roster, man. They think this team is better than that. And you could argue that all you want. But Paul, when you look at the roster, man, and you look at the record and all that stuff, and like if you were in charge, Paul, like me and Jerry have been on record saying we would just blow it up. We would just I don't mean to disrespect Joe. I'm just saying, like, what would you do? I'd be like, well, I would wipe the slate clean. I'm just curious, Paul, if you were the owner Paul Schwartz, what would be your stance? Would you want a clean slate, or would you say, you know what? I think Joe should be back and let him hire another coach.
Oh, I see what you're saying. As far as just fire them both and then just start with a new GM. Look, the grim reality is that one of the owner who's in the building and runs the team is sick right now.
Yep.
Okay. And that, I don't want to get too hot and heavy with this, but that is true. Okay. So if you get rid of Joe Shane and we've already gotten rid of Brian Dable. Now you are literally saying we need a whole new football operation. Mm-hmm. We need everybody new. And I'm not saying Joe Shane would stay because John Mara is sick. I'm saying, I've had a lot of interaction with Joe Shane. I think he knows what he's doing. I really do.
I agree.
Here's the thing, and he's made mistakes. Joe Shane has admitted that after that first year, with that warped sense of we're close here because we won a playoff game, that he did things he shouldn't have done. Mm-hmm. Okay, he should not have signed Darren Waller. He should not have signed. They looked at it and said, okay, we have to get weapons for Daniel Jones now. We have to. They didn't need to build around Daniel Jones. Saquon. Oh, we don't have to revisit all this stuff. We get it. But he did things to kind of were closer, and he knew that they weren't close. But he was intoxicated by winning 9 games in a playoff game and said, wow, we can add a little bit more to this. We can win 9-10 games. We can go even further. And they really weren't that kind of a roster. They just weren't. Blow it all up. Like I said, if anyone really feels that way, I'm not going to say, you're insane, and here's the reason why. The record is terrible. I just think that there's more there. Look, here's what I would say. In Denver, right? I'm in Denver. You guys watch the game. I'm in Denver, and they're up 19-0 at halftime. It could even be more. Then you say, okay, fourth quarter, Broncos score right away. It's 19-9, right? Was it 9 or 10? Did they go? Did they go for 8? I think it was
19-8.
19-8. 19-8.
20 because it was 26.
And I'm thinking, okay, this is turning the other way. And then the Giants, not only they get a break, right? There's a deflected pass, goes right to Theo Johnson, back. He runs like the wind, long touchdown, and it's 26-8. Now I'm doing the math with the time and the score. I'm saying, first of all, they got a break. The worm is turning a little bit with this team. And at that point, I thought to myself, you know what? They're going to be 3-1 with Jackson Dart. They're going to be 3-4, right? They're going to be 3-1 with Jackson Dart. The Broncos are a damn good team, and they're kicking their butts. And I said, you know what? This could be a real turning point here. They had just beaten the Eagles, right? So this is not a bad team. Wow. They beat the Super Bowl champions, and now they went to Denver, and they're kicking their butts. We should have turned. It's like, I should have turned off the TV right then, right? Or should have turned off. If it's a soap opera, I turn it off now. Everyone's living happily ever after now. So that was wrong, right? It didn't happen, but I still think there is a little bit of that team in there somewhere with Jackson Dart playing well. So look, put it this way. I think with a new coach, they have salary cap. They're going to they have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. They will have money. They'll make some tweaks. A new coach, you get a little bump. I think they can be a decent team next year. I really do.
I agree.
But you guys want to blow it up, and I'm not going to argue with that. The record says that if they want to blow it up, it's not unfair.
That's the and it's more blow it up because of the hiring a coach, extending the GM. Where's that go from there? What if then it's just not clean that way, right? And then
the one thing I think though, I'm not a big the coach and the GM have to be a package deal, things like that.
I don't either. I don't. Yeah. I get it, right?
In the old days, the GM was the GM of the Giants, and the GM outlasted coaches.
That's
they
true.
got fired.
Right.
The GM was the GM. I don't think I think a GM should be in place and fired after a long period, not whatever, not 2 or 3 years. What is his vision, and is the vision going backwards or forwards? And I think coaches are more get this one and get this one. So I don't think you have to. They don't have to be. Look, Joe and Dable were as aligned as you can be, right? They're best friends. They're great friends. They're great friends. They're still friends.
Still very good friends.
He did not. This was not a power struggle. Like people think that Joe Shane fired Brian Dable.
Absolutely not.
The owners fired him. The owners called Joe Shane in and said, "We are firing Brian Dable."
As a matter of fact, Joe Shane was stunned by it. He went into the office. He didn't know what was even coming. All right. So anyway, me and Paul put those rumors to rest about Joe fired Dave. Joe Shane was called into the office that Monday morning and was told the news by Mara, and Joe Shane was stunned by it. Okay. It wasn't like, so anyway.
So real quick,
look,
before Chris, before you go,
Jerry.
Chris actually said the same thing you did 2 or 3 weeks ago, Paul, that because of the issue with John Mara, that does come into play. So you guys kind of think I like that. I just want to give Chris the kudos for saying that. But and last point, it's not just because of the GM with the coach. It's I've gone over these draft picks a million times on this podcast that we've missed. So go ahead, Chris.
And no, I was just going to say, Jerry and Paul, that look, that's just my opinion. If I was the owner, I would probably do that. But let me say, like, I don't have a problem if Joe stays. I don't. I think he's done a lot of good things too. I think he's done a lot of things that are very questionable, like the first round misses. Obviously, that's big, Paul. That's big. You have a 7th overall pick that's done. Okay. You have Thibodeau, a 5th overall pick that's just been okay. You got Tate Banks, who's a major issue. He's probably not going to be on his team. And as a matter of fact, if I'm Mike Kafka, I'm making a statement. If a Debo goes Sunday, I'm making Banks inactive. I don't care about the rest of how thin they are. That's the statement I'm making. Okay. I'd be interesting to see what some of the personal things Mike does Sunday on. But
and to add to Chris, real quick, add to Chris's, the 2024 draft is not looking as good as it did last year right now. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it's just so but I wouldn't have a problem if Joe stays. And like Paul, before you came on, I was just talking with Jerry about it. And I said, look, I know a lot of people feel that it's written in stone and Shane's going to be back at 26, and that's not necessarily true. Okay. Yes, they want him to lead the coach search, but come January, that could change. So it's not 100% written. It's not the 10 Commandments here that thou shalt keep Joe Shane. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. So, hey, Paul, so I thought Mike Kafka today, I thought he had an impressive first presser. Look, Paul, we deal with him on Thursdays. Yeah. He's usually pretty, this cliche-ish, the whole deal. But I thought he gave more today. I thought he had a lot more pep in his step. And, I could tell he's very excited for this opportunity. He wants to be a head coach. He knows this is a great audition for not just the Giants, but for the rest of the league. Every year there's always 6 or 7 openings. Okay. So I thought he was impressive. What did you think about him, Paul? And what some of the things he might have said? Did anything catch your ear? Like, oh, wow. Okay. What's anything like that? So what did you think about it?
Well, I thought all season he's been more engaged with us. Don't forget the last 2 years he wasn't calling the plays. So you're talking to an offense coordinator who didn't call the plays, and and he doesn't want to say too much because Brian Dable's his boss. Brian Dable's calling the plays. So so this year he's calling the plays. I think he's been more engaged. He's been more up front. Look, he's not he's not Wink Martindale when he was here. He's not going to fill up your notebook, but I think he's been better. So today I thought he looked more head coachish. Yes, I do agree with that. You know what I mean? Look, you said audition. He shut that down right away. Audition. No, it's about the players. He's not saying this is a great opportunity for me. I hope to make the best of it so I can be the head coach. He's not saying that. I asked him, what do you want this team to show? Now you're a head coach of the first time, right? Kickoff 1:00. he's like, yeah, I good question, but I'm worried about today. So he's not trying to say, he could have said, you know what, for our fans at MetLife Stadium, I want them to see a team, and he could list all the things he wants. He's not doing that. He's not campaigning for anything. He's just not doing that. You know what? He's a good, smart offensive coordinator, right? And if we didn't know him, if he was Clint Kubiak, we would say, oh, that Kafka, I heard some good things about him. He did some good things with Daniel Jones that first year. He did some good things with Dart. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. We know him. So now we know I think Mike Kafka will be a head coach in this league. It's one day, whether it's with the Giants or somebody else. He's 38 and he's too close. He's getting these interviews. He's too close. So, but having said that, I think he's got a very much of an uphill battle. We've seen this team play, and this team doesn't know how to win. And he's not going to wave a magic wand and teach them how to win. With Jameis Winston playing quarterback, they may score 10 points this week against the Packers defense. You know what I'm saying? This schedule is ridiculous. It's going to be a semi-hostile environment. Hey, last home game, they had to go to a silent count because of all the 49er fans. They had to go to a silent count. The 49er fans don't travel half as much as the Packers fans do.
That was remarkable. Yeah.
So he's got his work cut out for him. This is an uphill battle for him, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. We did this with Spags. We love Spags. They went 1-3. I'm glad he won one game. Interim coaches, it's their team, but it's not their team.
Paul, since FanDuel sponsors this podcast, what percentage chance do you give Thank you, guys. What percentage chance do you give Kafka to win this job? If you had to put a percentage on it, go ahead.
Less than 20.
Okay. 15.
You know what I mean? I think they like him.
Sure.
I don't know if Joe Shane is like, it would be easy. I put it that he has to give them a lot of reasons. He's got to give them. We won games. Jackson looks good. We looked like a different kind of team. You know what I mean? You can't look like a different team and only win 2 out of the last 7 games. You know what I mean? This team was in these games and they were blowing leads. So can it happen? Yeah. Could, probably not though.
What's interesting, guys, and like Paul mentioned a little while ago, you look at the schedule early in the year and you see the New England game, you say, oh, that's a game we could definitely go into there. And now you look at it and go, well, the Giants are going to be heavy underdog, right? But now you look at the rest of the schedule. We're talking about Mike Kafka getting some wins. And now you look at the rest of the schedule and you see what? You see Vegas after Christmas, winnable game. You see Washington now.
Winnable.
We look at that in September. We say, well, we're going to lose 2 to Washington, Jaden Daniels. Now that's a winnable game. You look at the Dallas Cowboys at home. And you look at that and you say, hey, that's a winnable game.
Are the Cowboys playing for anything? They very likely won't be playing for anything. Right? Yeah.
Right. So you look at that, right? And fellas, you look at the Minnesota game and you say, well, it's J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, the Vikes are better, but it's J.J. McCarthy. He might throw 3 picks. We could maybe steal a game at home. So it's funny, right, Paul, the way this NFL works. And I say this every damn summer. In May, when the schedule comes out, everybody starts going, win, loss, win, loss. That's idiotic. And you look at it now and you say, hey, Mike's God has an opportunity to maybe get 2 or 3 wins down the stretch here, which obviously will help him a lot.
It's true, yes, but the Giants make it incredibly difficult to win. You know what I mean?
That we know.
They do. Like,
I know.
Right. There's that caveat. Yes,
they are a pay the bills mortgage team once a month. Once a month. That's what they do. They're like the mortgage. You have to pay your mortgage once a month. They win once a month. I mean, it's literally what they do. These games that they've lost, it's funny. Russell Wilson, we should talk about him. He was very classy today. He's a classy guy. He's a classy guy. People think he's full of it and he's a politician.
He's not.
He's this. Look, he's
a little corny at times. That's it.
And he's got a little politician in him. But you know what? He said, I want to be here and I didn't ask for my release. Now, if he asks for his release, does anyone else want to sign him? No. But he's not phony. And Kafka said he's one of the best team guys, but he was talking today, he likes to bring up, well, we went ahead, I threw that pass and we went ahead with 25 seconds to go in Dallas, man, if we could have won that game, it's like, yes. I mean, it's it's we couldn't have played these scenarios out if we analyzed these games. Well, let's see in Denver, you're going to lose. How are you going to lose that game? The Cowboy, how are you going to lose that game? So, the Saints game, I mean, the Saints were bogus in that game. Well, no, I think they're going to turn the ball over on 5 straight possessions. You're going to say, I've never seen an NFL team done that. I've never seen.
Right.
Well, we saw it now.
If someone wrote those scripts, you'd say you have a wild imagination. That's not going to happen ever. That's ridiculous. It could never happen.
Hey, Paul. I'm sorry, Jerry.
Yeah, well, real quick. I just want to comment. I'm sorry. I just want to highlight one because Bartlett's a huge supporter of ours. Paul, do you think the issue is Shane Bowen running his stale defense with these guys and not running a defense to his players' strengths and talents? Thanks, Bartlett, for the contribution.
I don't think Shane Bowen has put the team in the defense in the best position to win all the time. But last week in Chicago, I thought he called a fine game. He did not play one way. He had his personnel right there. I didn't look down the stretch and say, what is Shane Bowen doing? He was sending guys. He was playing man. He was doing some things. And, it's like I wrote about Kayvon Thibodeau. Shane Bowen can lead Kayvon Thibodeau to water of sacks, but he can't make him drink. You know what I mean? Kayvon needs to put Caleb Williams on the ground a couple of times there. That's not Shane Bowen, right? Kayvon is standing right there. Look, at one play, Caleb was very elusive. Not 4 times, not 4 times. So yeah, look, you can go back to Daboll not getting along with Wink. You know what I mean? Was it Wink's fault? I think more so. Could Daboll have made it work? Maybe. But, Wink was a better defensive coordinator than Shane Bowen was. That's all there is to it. You know what I mean? I don't think Wink is Steve Spagnuolo. I don't. But I think, Wink, I have not, when Bobby Okereke was playing for Wink Martindale, when you talk to Bobby Okereke, he sounded like a badass leader.
Yeah.
Ever since Shane Bowen is here, Bobby Okereke just sounds like a guy.
Neutered. Yep.
He just plays like a guy, and I don't know why.
Don't
he
get
was
it
hurt
either.
a little bit last year, right? His first year, Bobby Okereke is like, they got a steal here. Guy's got 150 tackles. He's in the backfield. He's
jumping over people for the tush push. Remember that against the Eagles? Like he was playing with reckless abandon. Absolutely. Yeah.
He was like Wink said, he's my guy on the field. He's my guy. They had this simpatico. They don't. So, Shane Bowen he gives them the call and they play the call. Does he inspire people? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Put it this way. When you guys are not at the game, when you watch on TV, do you ever see clips of Shane Bowen?
No, never. And if I do, it's just they pass the camera, just pan past him. No, there's nothing ever.
You know what I'm saying? Isn't that interesting? Every other defensive coordinator you see, he's talking in the thing or he's doing. Now, look, that's not all. It's some of it's showbiz. I get it, but they never show him what.
Even a guy like Spagnuolo, right? He's. I wouldn't say he's fiery, but he's intense, right? Like you never see that with Bowen. And you think if you're a player, you want to play for that guy, which is why, like we were saying, aside from Tomlin's success, if he breaks free, oh my God, every Giant fans would love him. And if you're a player, who wouldn't love to play for Mike Tomlin? So to your point, yeah, agree 100% with the, I guess, lack of enthusiasm that you get from Bowen. That's part of it too.
Yeah. I do. Yeah.
Look, I had 2 things with Bowen. One, I had somebody tell me this week that they're watching his defense and he's just very vanilla now. And his personality is very nice guy. It's not a fiery personality. He had the same issues in Tennessee. A lot of players like, oh my God, wake up, Shane. I've heard this from very reliable people. Even when he was in Tennessee, it's the same way. But that being said, and Paul brings up a good point. And Paul, I've talked about this too, and I'm always very fair. I'm not a Shane Bowen can't do anything right type of guy. And Jerry knows, and everybody watches this podcast, and my ex, what I put in that. Same thing. The fact of the matter is, Paul, what you just said, he was rushing 4 guys in the last 2 series, and nobody could get a damn sack when they needed it. The Bears twice got key sacks. The Giants once again, and I put it, with the parentheses of, I made fun of it, the vaunted front 4, 2 series in a row when they needed somebody to step up, and drop Caleb Williams, they weren't anywhere near him. Or if they were, he escaped and he ran down the left sideline for an 18-yard gain. Right. So, you know what I mean? So that's not Shane Bowen. And folks,
that was not
mad at me.
That was not scheme. In Dallas, it was scheme. In Dallas it was scheme. It was bad. This was not.
Bad. This was right. I mean, he's rushing his 4 guys, and people, you can get mad at me all you want, because I know a lot of people like Shane Bowen, no matter what, can't do anything right. The bottom line is that Dex's, the Thibodeau's, the Abdul Carter's, and even Brian Burns in his key spots, they did not get the key sacks. So it's on everybody, It's on everybody.
Yeah.
So, Paul, right. I thought one last thing, Jerry.
Look,
one of the first moves Mike Kafka makes, he names Jameis Winston as his backup, which he will be a starter Sunday because we know Jackson's not going. Paul, I thought that was a mistake by Dable, sticking with Russ as his number 2 this whole time. I got to be honest with you, Paul. I thought it was a mistake not having a competition in training camp. I'd like to know how you think about that after I finish my statement here. And then having Russ as a number 2, where I said weeks ago, and I wrote in the Insider and everything like that, you have to put your team, your players in best position to win games because the locker room's watching. And to me, Paul, Jameis gives his team a better shot to win over Russ. I never could quite understand why he kept with Russ number 2. We saw what happened when Russ had to play when Jackson missed some time last week, the 4th quarter. And now this week, Mike comes in and says, you know what? We're done with that. Jameis is the quarterback Sunday. Paul, what say you?
Well, put it this way. If Russ was the quarterback, he would run on the field Sunday and get booed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would just get booed. You know, it wasn't a fair situation.
He'd get cheered because every ticket would have gotten sold. So yes.
Well, the Packer fans, but the Giant fans would have.
Good one, Jerry. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, the Packer. So okay, look.
The Packers be cheering. Yeah.
Revisionist history. Okay, if I know what I know now, I would say okay, they should have started Jackson Dart from day 1. Okay, if I know now, but I still say it's worse if you rush the quarterback to start day 1 than if you wait a little bit. Okay, now they waited and they're 0-3. You know, I have no idea what they would have done if Jackson Dart started from day 1. You know, I'm not convinced he was ready day 1. I think watching for a few games at the NFL level was good for him. I see what Russ does. I see what he doesn't do. I see what he did in Dallas. I see this. I think it's good for that. If that didn't hurt Jackson Dart, it might have hurt the team. But I think you can err on the side of waiting a game or 2 or 3 with the rookie quarterback, then starting him too early. If you start him too early, then there's nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Look, in training camp, Chris, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Russ looked fine in training camp.
He looked very good. I reported it.
He looked fine. So it wasn't like Jackson looked fine too, but Russ looked fine.
Yes,
what the thing that we thought might be the case from Denver and from Pittsburgh with Russ is that Russ is not shot. But if you remember Eli at the end of his career, Eli did not want to get hit anymore.
Yes.
You know, he got rid of the ball. His sight from going down the field lowered to what's going on in front of me. The offensive line was big. I didn't realize how much Russ was impaired by that now, where,
yeah, I agree.
You know, he's a little guy and so look, Russ has had a tremendous career. There's going to be debates whether he should be a Hall of Famer or not, but this is it for him. He said, I still want to play. I still got it. He said today, that's great. He's a competitor. He's not going to say I'm done, but looking back, should there been a competition? Look, they had to get somebody ready to play. I don't think they could have an open competition. Russ was new to the system. Jameis was new to the system. Jackson was new to the system. Somebody has to get first team reps. I don't think it can be eeny, meeny, miny all through training camp. Someone has to get reps and be ready to play that first game. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't. I think it might have helped, as I said, Jackson Dart for sitting 3 games. Now they're 0-3, so it screwed up the early part of their season. I get it. But look,
I'm leaning more towards the Jameis Russ giving them both reps
Oh,
with the
I
ones that
see.
you
I
sorted
see.
out.
I see.
No, I look, I get the Jackson thing. I'm talking about Jameis and Russ.
Okay.
Like, why did you name Russ when you had Jameis, another veteran? Maybe you could split those reps the first few weeks of camps. Then you start sorting out, all right, we're going to go with Russ. He's going to get more of the ones now.
I thought Russ looked better than Jameis in the summer. Now he's
I agree.
Yeah, he's playing
look,
with the
Russ had
ones.
a very good camp. I'm not
He's
we're
playing
not
with the ones. He's throwing to Malik Neighbors. He's not throwing to Bo Collins.
He's not getting hit, right? In practice.
That's absolutely true. Yes. It's he's not getting hit. His vision is not down. They blow the whistle. He's wearing a red jersey. Of course, that's he can still function at that level once the pads come on and the other team's not wearing Giants colors. It's an issue. But look, they gave Russ $10 million. They gave Jameis $4 million. Jameis was signed to be the backup. Yes, looking back at it, you could say they shouldn't have.
I'm frustrating you here, Schwartz. I'm frustrating you.
No. I'm not going to
back, Chris.
bang the table. I'm not going to bang the table and say, Russell Wilson had to start. You're crazy. But I didn't think at real time. I said this makes sense. Russell Wilson can start. You know what? And you know why I thought it made sense? Because they have a good defense. I thought, and they can get them to 23 points, and they can win 23-20. Yeah. And Malik Neighbors is there, and maybe Scatterboo can do something, and Tracy can do something. And I thought he would function and be solid, not spectacular. That didn't happen.
Yeah, and look at what Paul So I'm sorry, Jerry. 1 second.
Yeah,
look, what Paul's saying is exactly what I said. I reported in training camp is that when we were there, obviously they're not getting hit. We know that. Mm-hmm. But you look for other things. Okay, how's Russ's arm outside the numbers? How's his ball placement with receivers? Even if it's like a scat in the flat, is he putting the ball in the right spot? Is he throwing it? Is he getting him in and out of the huddle? As everything looks, that's what me and Paul are talking about. And he passed all those tests with flying colors in training camp. And Jerry, you remember me reporting it, saying, "Look, Russ looked good. The arms, I'm right there. I'm watching him. The arm strength is good. He looks good.
The moon ball.
Down the field ball, the preseason game, he hits who was it? Bo Collins, Jerry?
Bo Collins, yeah.
Bo Collins on that deep cross, and a 60, 80-yard game, whatever the hell it was back then.
It was like 80 to the 1 yard line.
Right.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, look, the moon ball's there, the deep ball. But then what happened was he started getting hit. And then, like what Paul just said, we were shocked. I was shocked. Jerry was shocked. Paul Schwartz, who's been covering his team since 94, was shocked how his eye level just dropped when he started getting hit. And I was like, whoa. We saw it in a Washington game, Paul, right out of the gate.
Out of the gate. I was alarmed.
Right out of the gate.
I was alarmed right out of the gate. That first game, I was alarmed.
The sidearm throw. I was just going to say, and I'm like, the sidearm throw that he made in that game.
Okay, so then the next week, we didn't know how terrible the Cowboys defense was early in the season. And look, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, the guy threw outrageous throws. What was the last? Was the last one to Malik that put him ahead? Or
one to Malik. The one he dropped into Malik. Yeah.
And I mean, you can't. I mean, and it's Wan'Dale. Oh no, right. The Wan'Dale was before that. We never saw Wan'Dale catch the ball like that. Then Malik. They have to win that game. Now, does that mean Russell's going to be the starter the rest of the year? No, he played poorly. But maybe if they win that game, everyone feels rejuvenated. It's just. It's. I mean, they won games that are just ridiculous games. You can't lose that game.
That was 25 seconds left when Malik caught that ball. By the way,
25 seconds left. Ridiculous.
If they win that, hey Jerry, if they win that game, Jackson Dart doesn't start game 4.
No, he doesn't.
It would have been 1-2.
Yep.
And they would have went to game 4 with the charge, and Jackson probably would still be on the bench. Yeah. It's funny how things play out like that, right?
Yeah.
So
I want to go to the people for this question. I know you mentioned it before.
Yeah, you got any questions for Paul Schwartz?
Coffee Dog 62 asks your thoughts on Dexter Lawrence. What's the issue? Injury, age? What is it, Paul? What do you think?
No, it's not age. It's not age. I don't think it's injury. He says it's not injury. So unless he's covering up an injury, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. He had 9 sacks last year, right? And last year he wasn't saying that numbers don't matter. Last year numbers mattered, right? When you have 9 sacks.
Your numbers never matter when you have the stats.
Yeah, the numbers don't matter when you don't have them. He's still a good player, but he's not the Dexter Lawrence that was the best. He was the best nose tackle in the league, and it wasn't close.
Right.
It wasn't close. And so I don't know what it is. I think he started slowly. He did not practice a lot. He's coming off the elbow. He did not practice a lot. He's really big. I don't know what he's weighing. I don't know what he's weighing in at, but he's not weighing in underweight. I'll tell you that much. I mean, he's a big dude. He was big. He's big. So, he's a funny guy. He doesn't exactly get it with the media. He's a good guy, but he doesn't really get it. The sparring that we do sometimes is. He's not
you two do. It's pretty funny.
He's not a natural. He really isn't. He's a team captain. I think that's based on being one of the best players. I always find it interesting that he's on this side of the locker room, and Burns and Thibodeau are on this side of the locker room. It's just a little bit. There's something off with him. I don't know what it is. Look. Cry me a river with the double teams. I know it. You know what I mean? Let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
How many double teams did Aaron Donald get his last 5 years of his career?
None. 70%.
None, because he got triple teams. That's
right.
why.
Yeah, right.
He probably got double teamed
20%
of the time and triple teamed 40% of the time. So that heavy lies the person that wears the crown, right? Yeah, I mean, when LeBron or you send an extra defender at the guy, that's what you do with greatness, So it's a problem because he pushed the pocket a couple of times in Chicago. I remember and the guys on the edges could not clean up, but he's just not the same player, and I don't know 100% what it is other than slow start, not great shape in training camp, too big maybe. I don't know. He doesn't punish guys the way he used to punish guys. That's all there is to it. He used to punish. I mean, Jason Kelsey basically said he almost forced me into retirement. Remember, he said I don't want to play that guy twice a year.
He went at Quentin Nelson like he was 180 pounds in that Colts game at the end of 22. And Quentin Nelson's the best guard in the league, right? I mean. Yeah. It's totally different.
You have not. Yes, he looks like. It looks like where did his strength go? He would ragdoll people. Yeah, he would just. I mean, there'd just be two guys in front of him, and he would just keep moving forward, and it wasn't always a sack, but it was like just forward.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, I don't think there's one time this season where we looked at a play and said, "Man, Dex just blew that guy up." Right, Paul? I don't remember one play. Where maybe there was, but I'm just thinking where we said, man, Dex just destroyed that guy. Oh, those two guys. I remember against the Jets, he blew up 3 guys at one time a couple years ago. So he's not. Look, he came in out of shape, Paul. We know that. He was gassed in games early in the year, and it really kind of snowballed since then. Look, he gets doubled a lot, but that's not the point. When Paul asked Dex at his locker that day after the Carl Banks comments. And all Paul was saying is you got doubled a lot, but you had to, and he was just like, well, look at the numbers. And he wasn't happy with Paul's question. But the fact remains is that you got doubled the last 3 years, even tripled, and you were winning those battles. This year, you're not. So you could get mad all you want, Dex, but those are the facts. So,
I got to ask this one because, again, contribution-wise, Demons Row, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Question for each of you. You had full control to pick the Giants head coach. Who would you pick? We'll go to Paul first, obviously.
Oh, obviously, yeah, because I'll give the right answer, right? Yeah,
Thanks, Demons Row.
You know what? Okay, I'm going to talk around it a little bit. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to give you a name, but
I'm going to talk around it the whole time. Sure.
Yeah. No, this because it's too early, and I don't have a leader in the clubhouse. Yeah. Tell me what you guys think. I don't think this feels like a coordinator who's never been a head coach before.
I agree.
I don't know why. And it's not like because I think you have to have a head coach who had head coach experience, because just because they have experience doesn't mean they're any good. Just means they did it once and they probably failed at some point because they got fired. But look, we have to remember in 2022, Brian Daboll was the guy. He was he wasn't just the next coordinator. He was he was sort of Ben Johnson-ish, right?
Yeah.
He was about as big a prospect as Ben Johnson was this past year. Josh Allen, the Bills, they're on the cusp of the Super Bowl. So they got a top guy, and we saw what happened to him. And I still don't think Brian Dable's a bad coach. I think he coached a team that had a very bad record, So I don't know if this time around Joe Shane says, okay, you know what, I'm gonna, Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator, Seattle. He seems to be the hot guy this year, right? He's sort of Ben Johnson-ish this year. Maybe he'll be great, but I don't know if they want to. Dable was supposed to be great. He was the coach of the year's first. I don't know.
You don't want to do that experiment again, is what you're saying.
Jesse Minter is a guy here. Now, Jesse Minter, for the Chargers defensive coordinator, right? He's a tough ass. He would bring a different kind of temperament, I think. I think he would be a defensive guy. I think he would hold guys accountable. I think he would be, I think. But you have no idea if he's going to be a good head coach. Steve Spagnuolo, I love the guy. I see him every year. I see him pretty much every year at the Super Bowl. The Saints are the Chiefs are in it almost every year. I mean that first night, that first Monday, that first night thing. I go right to him. I talk. We hug. We talk. He asks, "How's your family? How's your family?" We talk about this latest team and how great they are. We talk about something else, and the guy should be in the Hall of Fame as a defensive coordinator. He was not a good head coach with the Rams in a bad situation, with a bad quarterback situation, but I don't know if he's a great head coach.
And this isn't the time to try that. Like, okay, we're a mess. Steve Spagnuolo, fix it. You know what I mean? Like that seems, I don't know. That's just coming out of nowhere. They're just saying old names right now.
Jeff Hafley, Packers defensive coordinator, Boston College head coach. So he's got head coaching experience. Boston College, right? John Mara, Boston College is a strong Giants connection there. One of these guys I mentioned is going to be a great head coach. They're going to be. But three of them I mentioned are probably not going to be. That's just the way it is.
Right.
So
it's the way it is.
The long-winded saying, Mike McCarthy does not excite anyone.
I was going to say, it doesn't mean it has to be Mike McCarthy either, though.
No, it doesn't. But sometimes you don't have to excite anybody. You just have to be a good, stable head coach, runs a tight program, and has really terrific coordinators. It doesn't have to be the next great thing. Kevin Stefanski, if he gets fired, Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, Lou Anarumo, he's never been a head coach. Staten Island.
Chris, be careful, Paul.
What's about
Staten Island? I figured he's at the top. I figured he and Freeman at the top of Chris's list.
Because I'm from Staten Island, Paul.
Marcus Freeman, fascinating, right? I know there are people in the building who think he's great. Who think he's great. Now, he would be an incredible hit or miss, right? I mean, you have no idea. He's from Notre Dame. He's buttoned up. He's solid. He's classy. He could be the next Mike Tomlin or the next Andy Reid. I have no idea if in a year and a half we're going to be like, this guy's a college head coach, man. This guy, he can't deal with 38-year-old guys. I have no idea. So I look, there's no slam dunk. There is absolutely no slam dunk. Look, I just see somebody said, Paul, make a pick. Okay.
I got the highlight. That's funny.
I'm on the clock and I have to make a pick. Oh, jeez. And I can't.
I can't yet. It's too early.
Come on, Chris. We need him to for the ratings.
You know what? I don't think Lane Kiffin. I don't. Because here's the thing. I don't think Jackson Dart needs someone to hold his hand. You know what I mean? I think Jackson Dart might be the most coachable guy I've ever talked to. Awesome. You know what I mean? I mean, unless you bring in a guy who's anti-quarterback, then I mean, Jackson Dart can probably play for anybody. I mean, you don't have to have. Oh, you better bring a guy who knows, who knows Jackson.
Right.
I think there'll be guys lined up to coach Jackson Dart. Yeah. I'm not going to say Kafka because I just think it's a long process for him to do that.
15% chance, right?
I'll say Mike McCarthy. Okay, I'll say Mike McCarthy. And he did interview with them once, right? I guess when they hired Joe Judge. You know what I mean? I think he would be.
They liked him a lot too.
Yeah, I think he would be stable. He would be safe. He would be not exciting. And you know what? Maybe he could put together a really good staff. Maybe.
And don't you think, Paul, that I know it's not an exciting pick, but don't you think Giants fans would sign up for a guy that's won 12 games 3 years in a row and has been in the playoffs? Now, has he messed up a lot, clock map? But I think the Giants fans would, think about it, everybody. Would you sign up for a guy that had his team in the playoffs every damn year? I mean, the Giants can't win 5 games.
Yeah. Look, he did not do great at the end with Dallas. You know what I mean? With the Cowboys.
But that ends with a lot of coaches.
It does end with a lot of coaches. That's why they're unemployed. I think he would be pretty good with the media. Pretty good. I think he's a kind of a homespun guy. You know what I mean?
Down in Dallas.
Maybe he'll bring Ben McAdoo back to be his offensive coordinator.
I don't know. Paul, I just think come January, I don't think they're going to make the mistake, I could be wrong, of trying to chase that next Sean McVay. You know what I mean? That young 38-year-old guy and all. I don't think they're going to fall into that. We got to get like a McVay type guy. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they want a guy that's been a head coach, right? A guy that's going to come in, a guy that can handle the media and all that stuff. I think that's where they're going to lean. I really do. That experience, and like McCarthy's a guy that, hey, look, the media here could be very tough, but in Dallas, football is life and death. Nothing's more intense than football down in Dallas too. So McCarthy will have experience with that. So we'll see. I know they did like McCarthy's interview a couple years ago when he went with Judge. But we'll see. We'll see how that works out. But I just don't think they're gonna go, hey, we have to get that next Sean McVay. Have that mentality. I think it's
the hardest thing to project in sports. I really do.
It really is, because you don't know until the bullets.
The coordinator who becomes a head coach. Now, look, I go back, I think, before you probably, Jerry. Just as far as because I wrote a book about this, and I was looking about the Giants book I did, Tales from the Giants Sideline. This goes back a long way. So anybody who's under 50 here or 40, should probably just log off right now.
I'm younger than Chris, Paul.
You're younger than Chris?
Yes. It's the hair and the gray and all. I get it.
Look, I got to make.
He's 9 years younger than me, Paul.
Chris is so insulting.
I better make this last comment good. I'm never coming back on this show.
I was going to say, Schwartz.
But look, Bill Arnsparger was the greatest assistant.
Yeah,
he was one of the the no-name defense, the undefeated. I was certainly not covering the team then.
Right.
I'm not quite that old either. But from what I heard and read, that and I remember talking to John Mara about this. He literally was one of the greatest coordinators ever to be. He was absolutely, and he was an abysmal head coach. Abysmal. He literally could not. He was an asshole, first of all, and he was just a terrible head coach, from what I hear. John Mara told me a story. John, you want to hear a quick story? John Mara, Bill Arnsparger story. Okay, John Mara, believe it or not, was I think he was still at Boston College. You know what his job was in training camp? He was the media liaison. He would get players for the media. Okay. So right. You'd say, he was like an intern.
Like Al Kraz.
Yeah. So you'd say, you know what? I'd like to talk to this guy. John Mara would go get him. So he was asked one day to get a player. John didn't know who he was. Okay, one of the top players. So he went to Arnsparger in the team cafeteria, during training camp. Everyone's calm in training camp, right? It's training camp. Mm-hmm. So he said, Coach, one of the guys in the media wants to talk to this so-and-so. Can you tell me who he is? And he said, Arnsparger was looking down at his plate of food, okay? He didn't even look up. And he goes, learn the personnel, John. Learn the personnel. And John Mara said, look, he told me, look, I was a nobody back then, right? Mm-hmm. But I still was the owner's son.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
I was a nobody, but I still was the owner's son. Yes. He was kind of telling me, like, right then he kind of thought, this guy Arnsparger might not be so good as a head coach.
When I interviewed Bob Tucker, he talked about how much he loved Alex Webster as a head coach, and he said then Arnsparger came in and it all went up in smoke. He goes, Arnsparger would run on first down, would run right, and on second down he'd run left, and on third down to throw everybody off, he ran straight up the middle.
Look, Jerry. I remember Arnsparger.
He remembers Arnsparger, Paul, because
he was
he's older than me.
worst.
Go ahead, Chris.
He was the worst. He was a bad coach, man.
But
But
coordinator, though, bad coach.
Well, the coordinator of the no-name defense back in the day, Paul, in the early 70s, Miami Dolphins. So, but which goes to prove what, Paul? Just because you're a good coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a good head coach.
Hey, you want to hear something fascinating? Russell Wilson was saying today in front of his locker he wants to be a head coach in the NFL.
Well, I didn't hear Russ say that. He said that today?
Well, kind of off on the side. He was talking a little bit.
Okay.
And then he was talking about a leader of men. He said,
well, he was talking to me about accountability and
like
different
CEO. He said, you think Mike Tomlin, he's not in all the meetings. He's a CEO. Andy Reid, CEO. He said, you think Pete Carroll was in all the meetings? No, CEO, head coach. So that's, the Giants, they don't need Mike McCarthy to come in and be this brilliant offensive mind, even though he's an offensive guy. They need someone to be a CEO, and they need toughness, and they need accountability. They need stability. They need calmness. They need a lot of that stuff. And, a 41-year-old guy or a 38-year-old guy might be able to do it. Might not.
Does Nick Sirianni strike you as a brilliant football mind, Paul?
You know what? I no, he does not. But
that's what I mean.
But I don't know what kind of coach he is, other than he wins all the time. I don't know. He just last week, just this past game, I think he had incredibly crazy clock management on that fourth down. But they win. They win all the time. So he obviously gets guys to play at a certain level. He does. They do. They won 10-7. It was a lousy, boring game. But the Giants will take winning 10-7 and a lousy, boring game. People will sing praises to that guy.
My God.
You have to win.
Jerry, the best thing that Sirianni did was give up the play calling a couple years ago and became the CEO.
Yeah,
and a lot of people, I heard, a few people have told me, I shouldn't say a lot, a few people have told me that it was a big difference the way he approached it. And
I wonder about that with Kafka now, because he's the play caller and he's the head coach.
Right.
They both gave it up because it was a lot. You know what I mean? So that I would have preferred if Kafka didn't, but there's no natural play caller. So he has to, I get it. He has to call the plays. He just has to.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone there who's ever called plays before. He has to call the plays, but it's going to be hard for him to have his focus on the entire game when he's calling the plays. It is, but that's the way it is.
Hey, Paul, just one last question. We'll get you out of here, man. We thank you. Thank you so much for giving us so much of your time, Paul. But were you a little surprised when he said Tim Kelly is going to be the OC and not Shea Tierney?
Not exactly. No. First of all, Shea Tierney's the quarterback's coach. You still need people around Jackson Dart. You know what I mean? You need to have someone, with Jackson Dart all the time. I think Shea Tierney is very much a Brian Daboll guy. Okay. He's
Chris was getting it, I guess.
You're a smart one there, Schwartz. Go ahead. Elaborate. Go ahead.
Well, he's been with Daboll in Buffalo. He's a Daboll guy. He's a Daboll guy. So, he's a Giants guy. He's with the Giants now. But and you know what? Tim Kelly, I've talked to a few times. I cannot tell you chapter and verse, but those tight ends coaches, they kind of, a lot of them are like run game coordinators too. They're very good with, and I talked to Theo Johnson about him. He said he's brilliant as far as telling me things and things like that. So, look, don't forget, it's the offensive coordinator who is not calling plays. So it's not, it's a promotion. He's got to talk to the team. He's got to set things. He's going to be in the meetings when Kafka
be involved in the game plans. Yeah.
There's no question. But maybe he's been a big part of the game plan. A lot of time. I remember Pope. Remember Mike Pope? He basically designed their run offense as a tight ends coach. He was just called the tight ends coach. He designed their run offense. So sometimes tight ends coaches, because they coach guys who are receivers and really like offensive linemen, so they have a great feel for that kind of stuff. I don't know, if Kelly and Kafka have a especially close relationship or not. He's a fairly new coach. Maybe he was instrumental in bringing him in. Maybe he told Daboll, I like this guy, bring him in. I haven't studied that much, but just you have to follow the bouncing ball sometimes. So I was not shocked by that. No.
Right. Paul, Jerry, anything else for Paul? We'll
No, man. You've been so generous with your time, Paul. Kidding me?
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing also is, which nobody really realized, that I'm actually younger than both of you, which is, I kind of screwed up your ages, but I'm younger than both of you. So,
Well, that's fine.
What do you think about that, Jerry?
I got nothing to say, guys. At this point.
Jerry, your thoughts?
Somebody said all this losing is making Jerry age. I was going to say, this is 3 daughters, Paul. When you have 3 daughters.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? No joke. It's not making me age, but people think that either we're fans and we root for the Giants, or we hate the Giants and we're rooting against them. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not rooting for 33-32 in Denver in a shit show. Okay. I'm not rooting for that. I'm not rooting for, guys getting fired and walking into the locker room and having guys have no answers, and blank stares and Brian Burns, after giving his all and, sacking guys and just saying, I don't know. So, I mean, I'm not rooting for that. They need to go 17-0 or 0-17. So I just think it's
much better when they're winning, boy.
This has been pretty brutal. I mean, this is, 2-8. You can't sell stories. It's pretty brutal. It really is.
Close it out on a high note. Chuck Lustig asks, what's the greatest New York sports moment during your illustrious career, Paul?
Sports moment? Or look, the Giants winning the Super Bowl in 2007 is still remarkable to this day. I have one of my best friends is a huge Giant fan, and he asked me, he said, when they made the playoffs, said, when they make the Super Bowl, I'm like, look, they're not making a Super Bowl. Okay. He said, when they make the Super Bowl, can you get me Super Bowl tickets? I said, I can go through the league and get you Super Bowl tickets. They're going to be a lot of money. I'll get you face value tickets. He said, okay. So then when they beat the Packers, right? I said, okay, he said, yes, I want tickets. I said, okay, you have to realize though, I don't want you to stake your whole trip here to Arizona. It's going to be an expensive trip on them winning the game. You know what I mean? I mean, they could win, but I don't really think they're going to win. You know what I mean? Against the Patriots. He says, they're going to win. Okay, David, I'll get you the tickets. They're going to win. He's a fan. He thinks they're going to win. Right. So that game was, I remember after they beat the Packers in one of the greatest games I've ever covered. That was our Ice Bowl. That was every bit as good as any great game in history. And I remember after the dust was settled, they're going to Super Bowl. I said, damn, it's too bad they're playing an all-time team. They got to roll here. They're playing the Patriots, man. They're 17. It's too bad they're playing an all-time team with the all-time quarterback and an all-time head coach. If they were playing just another really good team, they got a shot. They had a shot. So that's the moment for me. I mean,
good stuff.
I remember the last thing. I remember when I was sitting down to write that game story, right? And you kind of say, I got to do this. I remember thinking to myself, Paul, let it all out.
Nice.
You can't overwrite this story. Sometimes you think, okay, they won the game, but they got another game next week or this.
Right.
You cannot overwrite this. You know what I mean? You got to put your heart and soul into it, but you can't overwrite it. You can't. I mean, that was
great stuff, man.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Pretty good.
Paul Schwartz from the New York Post, covering the Giants since 1994. Nobody does it better. Paul, thank you, brother, man. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, Paul, we'll talk soon. Thank you, brother.
Yep.
So that was hey, look, that's some great stuff right there from Paul.
That was awesome.
Great insight from a guy that's very plugged in, has been doing this a long time. So I guess, Jerry, we'll start wrapping it up. Obviously, Giants Packers, Mike Kafka's first game, calling the shots. The whole team.
FanDuel Sportsbook spread is 7, Chris.
Yeah. Look, the Packers.
By the way, the Packers are favored, by the way, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. But look, I kind of look, the Packers are struggling. It's probably going to be a get-right game for them. I know Jameis is throwing. Just a tough defense here.
Yeah.
But this is a tough – I think Jameis might throw a few picks. He probably throw a few touchdowns too, but I like the Packers. I think the Packers will do enough to win this game, like a 27-17 type game.
Yeah, 34-20, something like that. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun. And look, man, like you said, I'm rooting for Mike Kafka. Hope he does well. Hope he kills it. And Jameis, how gracious he was today. Really, that came through in the interviews. I was happy for him. We didn't really talk about that too much, but he's a funny guy and he seemed gracious for the opportunity. I hope he does well. But still, man, this is the get right game. And the Giants are playing a road game at MetLife this week. They're going to be playing a road game. The only thing that's going to keep it less of a road game is that Jameis is playing. Some Giant fans may go now just because if Russell was going 80-20, 80-20.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Jameis kind of adds a little excitement because Jameis, is Jameis. And
Yeah.
I think even, you know what, Jerry, I think so many people have wanted Dable gone. And you know what? Hey, we got a new head coach this week.
Yeah, totally.
Even though Mike's been there, he's been calling the plays, but I think a lot of people look at it like, hey, we got a new head coach. Let's see how he does. Right.
Yep.
That's so.
Good stuff. All right, guys. We'll be back. We'll be back Sunday afternoon sometime or Sunday night. Sundays are Giant days. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.